That recording. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi,
Hi.
Virginia.
Hi, good to see you.
Good seeing you too. We were just talking in the green room for a little bit. Virginia Evans, the author of The Correspondent, is here, and Mary Allen, our very own beloved bookseller,
I'm
um,
here.
is doing the interview today. So we're so excited. This is going to be so much fun. So while everybody's getting settled, it always takes a couple minutes. I always say this, and those of you who watch this and watch us all the time, you know this is one of my old lines, so just ignore me for a minute. But Virginia, I always like to say when I open up the Zoom, it's almost like flinging the doors open at Warwick's, and I love seeing all the numbers and all people
Oh,
like that.
I love it. Yeah.
So we got lots of people coming in, so it's going to be very fun. I've opened up the chat, so feel free to chat and do whatever. If you're doing something naughty, I'm going to turn it off. So, keep that in mind. Um, but as we get started, Virginia, where are you calling in from today?
I am in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is where I live. So it's
Okay.
7 o'clock for me.
Okay. And what's the weather like there today?
It is okay. It is so humid where I live. It is abysmal. Like in the morning, we bump the air down at night, and in the morning, all the windows and doors are just like sweating with the
Oh,
humidity outside. So today, I think this is actually pretty low. 88 was the high. Last 2 weeks ago, we were in the 100s every day, and the humidity is like 90%. So
no.
it's
Oh,
like for someone with my hair, it's a
yeah.
very bad place to live in the summer.
And we do need to get you out here to California, don't we?
I would love it.
Yes.
I would
And
prefer it.
yeah. And Mary, I know that you work at Warwick's, but where are you calling? What part of San Diego are you calling in from today?
Grips Ranch.
All right. And you're probably pretty temperate like we are right now. Well, you may be a little hotter
A
than I am.
little warmer, but nothing like what Virginia's going through.
Yeah,
Nobody
exactly.
should.
Yeah.
Nobody
All right.
should.
So in the chat, I know everybody knows all this, but I'm just going to do it because that's what I'm supposed to do. For those of you who are new to us, Warwick's is located in San Diego, La Jolla. La Jolla is just a little bit north of San Diego. As my sign says, since 1896, we've been in business. So if you're in the San Diego area, we would love for you to come by to the store and shop all kinds of other books. Today, I'm going to put Virginia's book, The Wonderful Correspondent. Who's got a copy to hold up for me?
Oh, I do.
Oh,
Wait.
there it is. There
Yes,
it is.
yes.
Um, I'm going to put that in the chat. So if you don't already have it, you can purchase it from us. We could ship to the lower 48. But if you're in San Diego, we'd love for you to stop by and pick it up from us at the store. Down below your screen, again, I know everybody knows this. Virginia and Mary are going to talk for about 30 minutes. And then we're going to save some time for Q&A. We're also going to save some time for some spoiler Q&A at the very end of the Q&A. So if you've read the book and you have that nagging spoiler question you want to ask, wait until the very end and we'll let people know and we'll let them log off if they don't want any spoilers. And we'll get into a little bit of spoiler talk too. But down at the bottom of your screen is that Q&A button. Pop your questions in there. It'll be easier for me to find them versus trying to scroll through the chat there. So with that, let me introduce these lovely two ladies and then I'll go away for a little while. So Virginia Evans is from the East Coast of the United States, as she said. She attended James Madison University for her bachelor's in English literature, as well as Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, for her master's of philosophy and creative writing. As she said, she lives in, did you say you lived in Winston, North Carolina, right? Was I
Yeah, I
listening to
still
that
do.
correctly?
Yep.
Yes. With her husband, two children, and her red Labrador, Bridget. I love that. And as we said, she's here to talk about The Correspondent. And as I said too, we're here with our esteemed bookseller from Warwick's, Mary Allen. After retiring from UC San Diego, Mary, a longtime Warwick customer, joined the wonderful booksellers in 2021 to nourish her lifelong reading habit. She is an avid reader of fiction and enjoys helping customers select their next book while at the same time collecting book recommendations from those patrons and other staff members. She is always glad for the opportunity to meet with authors to discuss their books when they are in the store, during signings, and other events, like this virtual one here. So, with that, ladies, have a great conversation, and I'll see you in about a half hour.
Thanks, Julie.
Okay. So, full disclosure to the audience, I'm a big fan of your novel and will attempt to not provide any spoilers along with tempering my fangirl energy for you.
Bring it on, Mary. Bring it on.
For those, however, who have not read your novel, would you please provide a synopsis?
I would love to. I'm getting good at this. It was hard at first. The Correspondent is a book that's told in letters. So there's a word for this, which I learned after I wrote the book, which is epistolary. So it's an epistolary novel. The whole book is written in letters to and from the principal person in the story, who is a woman named Sybil Van Antwerp. When the story begins, you're entering on her 70, I think her 73rd birthday or her 74th birthday.
73rd.
Thank you. See, I forget and people will help me along the way. Thank you. You enter on her birthday. And so what the rest of the book is sort of the exchanges of her letters and email, mostly letters, but emails and correspondences with a huge variety of people in her life, people close to her, people that are sort of distant from her, strangers, friends, colleagues, former colleagues. And what the book is, what I wanted the book to be, is at the end of the book, you have a portrait of her whole life. So through the letters that you start reading in her 70s and you see her through about 10 years, you are sort of every letter. I like to think of all the letters as puzzle pieces. And every time you read a letter, you put a puzzle piece in the puzzle and you think, oh, okay. And then another letter and you put another puzzle piece. And hopefully by the end, I think by the end, you have this um, kind of full and complete portrait of her, but also of her life and sort of I hope at the end you have an understanding of who she was kind of in full relief. When I was what I was wanting to do was try to accomplish that, a full life. I wanted to tell somebody's whole life. So that was kind of what I was trying to do.
I think you definitely hit a home run with that. And you are such a young author. And as I say, as a woman closer in age to your protagonist than you, I was amazed by your insights writing as a septuagenarian. You really, as you said, you really presented a life fully lived. Where did the character of Sybil Van Antwerp come from? Was she based on someone in your life or completely created from your own imagination?
That's a great question. Sybil, when I was setting down to write this book, I've written other books, and sort of whenever I'm sitting down to write a book, it's this desire to write whatever I feel that I want to read. And so I was wanting to read a book in letters. I had just read 84 Charing Cross Road and I had loved it. It felt sort of like nurturing or something. Like it felt very gentle to read that book, digestible. Um, and I wanted to try to write a book in letters. And so when I started to imagine, but I wanted something more. Like 84 Charing Cross Road is very limited in scope, but that's on purpose. That book is a perfect book. But I was wanting that but deeper and more. Um and so when I started with the idea of letters, then it was the question of what kind of person would write letters as in as much volume and with as much thought as would be required for the whole story. And so I was approaching the work wanting to discover the person who was the letter writer, I guess. And so a couple things were kind of rolling around in my head. Sometimes when I'm like moving into a new project or working on something, I describe it to my husband usually as marbles rolling around in my head, like just these marbles kind of like as I move through the day, like rolling around. And so there were a few things rolling around, and one of them was my mother-in-law. She is this kind of this vintage, and her way of communicating is very like Sybil's way of communicating. And this is a quality in her that I love. This is why I love her, is because she's honest and I never wonder what she's thinking and not saying, I know
That's
what she's
true.
thinking. It's such a great quality and it feels so like freedom and trust in a relationship that she'll say what she thinks. And so I never have to wonder what she thinks. And so we're very close because of this quality, I think. And it sort of supersedes the typical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship because she doesn't create that tension. And so that kind of quality was in my mind, and then I had met a woman. I was trying to buy a house from this woman, and I met with her, and a lot of the sort of interest of like she was kind of this vintage, and she was divorced, and she had had this big career, and she was so interesting, and I just thought I wonder what the whole story is. I remember meeting with her and just thinking she just seems so interesting and so um magical in a way. And so when I sat down to write, I will say Sybil sort of arrived for me. And I've heard Elizabeth Strout say this about her characters, Olive Kitteridge and Lucy Barton, that their voices sort of like arrived and stayed. And that was really true for me with Sybil. The way her manner of communicating, her manner of her cadence and her way of being very blunt and very direct, but also full of love and sort of her own cadence of speaking in letters. It just arrived. Her voice was just right here. And then it felt like I had it. Then it didn't it wasn't I don't think writing is easy, although like writing stories for a job is like let's all be honest, easy. An easy job. But that it's not like the construction of the whole novel was just seamless, but it was a pretty quickly moving river for me at that point.
So then what I understand is the letter writing, the concept of letter writing is what drew you. That was the interest.
Yeah,
And then Sybil came. It
that's right.
wasn't the other way around. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was always the letters first.
Okay. And I have to tell you, I know 84 Charing Cross Street or Charing
Road.
Cross Road.
Yeah.
And not to take anything away from Helen Hanff.
Yeah, Helene Hanff. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It is a very good book. It is a very simple book, lovely book, but your book is so much better.
Thanks, Mary.
It's so because of the other characters. And it's interesting that you mention Olive Kitteridge because despite the letters, which are really an incredible vehicle to learn about the characters, I kept thinking about Olive Kitteridge in all of this and how we as the readers of that book got an insight to her that the other characters didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the letter writing is so helpful with that. So that's interesting. It was the letter writing, not Sybil, but she was in back of your head.
Yeah.
So the timeline, I also thought of the book was perfect. This is not a giveaway. It's from 2012 to 2022. You don't get too political at all. Life is mentioned in it, but very briefly. Mm-hmm. And the pandemic sneaks in without being mentioned at all. But if the readers follow the dates of the letters, you can tell when the pandemic arrives. Mm-hmm. Was there a reason you selected this particular time period?
What a great question, Mary. I just got chills. That was so insightful what you said about the way that politics and the pandemic and these things in modern times were like there's a shadow of them, but it's not mentioned directly. That's really insightful, and I really appreciate you noticing. um, I mentioned I've written other books. This is my first commercially published book, but I had always written novels that were set before modern times because I feel that the ultimate plot killer is the cell phone era. I feel that it's very hard to have an interesting book where people have iPhones. It's very distracting and it's like there's no mystery. You can like geolocate the people that you love. There's no like somebody got lost. We don't know where they are. We know where they are. They're like so much of the fun of like the mystery of life I feel is gone. And so I had kind of always set my work a little earlier, even like into the very early 2000s, but not beyond because I just didn't want to deal with like email and text messaging and what feels like I call it the ultimate plot killer. But I know that that's not true. And there's plenty of really great books set in modern times. But I think I got to a moment where I felt, um, just a strong sense of, yes, I have gripes about my era, my moment on this earth, but it's the moment I live in. And I just thought, okay, I'm gonna try to do this. I wanted to try to be set in a present time in a way that still felt thoughtful and like meaningful. And in some ways I was able to really grapple with that because Sybil is this age where she is learning, like learning the technology, learning
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
safety cameras on her porch
Mm-hmm.
and like, trying to navigate like the way she writes emails is kind of hilarious because she's like using letter writing etiquette in email. It's just that kind of a thing.
Very much like our mother-in-laws, huh?
Yes, exactly. And so I think I was feeling a desire to, I probably always am trying to make myself do something I don't think I can do every time I write a new book. And so I always felt like I can't write a good book with technology. It just won't do it. I can't do it. I know people can do it. I'm not one of them. And so I thought I'm gonna like wade, wade in slowly by having this woman who's not very, very in touch with technology, but certainly is is present in the technological world.
You did a beautiful job of that, and that's actually interesting to hear the reason why you picked that time frame. Um, in addition to Wonderful Sybil, I was impressed by the many other individual characters you created, each with their own voice. And my favorite, uh, and no spoilers here, but was her neighbor, Theodore Lubeck. And second, running behind, was Rosalie,
Oh,
her best friend. And again, I was so impressed with how you were able to create a whole origin story for them through their letters. So I understand some of the characters in the book are there to help you move the story forward, but some of them were fully realized, just like Sybil's life was fully realized. How did you come up with all of these characters? They're all, each of them had such great storylines that I did not mind reading their letters.
Hmm.
I could give Sybil a break and then, learn about them.
Yeah, Sybil needed to take a break sometimes. She's a lot. Um, Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You know, I don't even know. This whole book, I don't I don't know. I think I don't really have a great answer, but it's the way my imagination is. And I think it's funny, before I have gone to talk about this book in a publicity sense, I've always thought I didn't have a good imagination. I always felt like I was okay at telling a story, but I was having always like, I'm not very good at coming up with things just out of the blue. But then I think I did better than I thought I could do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, all the different characters, there was something that was really important to me, and I thought about it a lot when I was writing, and I always think about this when I'm writing fiction. And it's this idea that I want every single thing, I want you to believe me. I want whoever's reading it to believe me. And so I feel very cautious about anything in a story that feels unbelievable or contrived or shoehorned into a plot. I studied under Claire Keegan and in Trinity, and she said that when you're writing fiction, and I think I always lived by this, but then she put these words to it. Of course, she did because she's Claire Keegan. That has helped me to understand what's in my mind as a writer. But she said, when you're writing fiction, you're creating this bubble, this sort of like a globe, and inside the globe is a world, and you're creating this world. And she said something to the effect of, but the moment your reader, is in the book and then they sit back and they say, I don't believe you. Your world is shattered. There's no point. You've lost it. Like it no longer is a good story if your reader has any moment, even one moment of thinking of kind of like, that you're immersed in the bubble in the orb world, and then it breaks and you pop out and you're back in your living room and you're holding the book and you think, oh, they wouldn't do that or they wouldn't say that.
Such good advice.
Such good advice.
Really good advice.
It
And
really
you
is.
and you took it. You took it because there are no shoehorn characters. I never felt like what
Yeah.
was going on. And there was never a point where I felt like, oh, this is shattered. This is not believable. They
I'm
were
so
all,
glad.
yeah.
I'm so glad because that was important to me. And so I think kind of when I was writing the book, I thought some people she writes to will, if it's we have all this time, they'll have a relationship and
Yes.
they
Yes.
will have a story and they're part of, a relationship is a two-way street. And so I mean, Rosalie's a great example. Sybil's living in her own drama, but Rosalie is living in hell. I mean, Rosalie is the one who's really in a hard life with a husband who's like has Alzheimer's and her son is, wheelchair bound and nonverbal. I mean, she's the one, but you don't, it's like you just get these little edges of that story and you're like putting Rosalie's life together. I liked
Yeah.
that. I liked that
Yes.
a game to me. Like, how do we sort of weave this whole tale?
You did the weaving beautifully. So are you revealing that Rosalie is your favorite second character, or
That's a great question.
do you have a favorite character
Um, who's my favorite character?
besides Sybil?
Besides Sybil, I don't even know if Sybil's my favorite. I love Sybil. I think my favorite character probably is Rosalie. And I think that's because Rosalie is the counterpoint to Sybil. Sybil's personality and her opinions and her way of kind of crashing through the world, um, and being like she's a disturber. She's a disturber of the peace. And Rosalie is just this gentle soul. And I like how I won't give anything away when I say this, but if you remind me in the spoiler section, I will. But there's something about Rosalie that's very full circle in the book that
Mm-hmm.
really meant something to me. And actually, when I got to the end, I mean, sometimes I've never reread the book in full, and I probably would never read it again in full, but occasionally I've dipped back in these kinds of conversations or to figure out something somebody asked me, and I cry sometimes. There are times I still will get emotional reading it. And there's something about Rosalie that I feel like, to me, like who are the birds? It's probably Sybil and Rosalie.
Yes, yes, I thought the same thing. And I don't want to disabuse you of reading it a second time. I did in preparation,
Love it.
and I actually loved it the second time around, and I cried. I just at the end, it was just, oh, it's just so good. So some of the characters are real authors who correspond with Sybil. Of course, they respond to Sybil. Um, how did you decide which authors to include?
That's a great question. And actually, a couple people have said we should tell my publisher. Like, we should tell my publisher that there should be a list in the back of the book of all the books she
Oh,
referenced.
yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of, if you haven't read it, there's a lot of books that she and her best friend Rosalie are always saying, "What are you reading?" "Oh, I'm reading this," whatever. All the books and authors that are in the book, I would say most, maybe a few are just in there for a reason, but most of them are books and authors I have loved, or their work has been pivotal for me or monumental for me as a reader. I think of my writing life and my reading life as two different things, even though I know they kind of cross-pollinate, I'm a reader and I'm a writer. And so this whole like world of my reading life is its own unwieldy thing. And then this is my writing life. But I know they intersect, but to me they're two different occupations. And so almost every book that's referenced has meant something to me, has been a favorite of mine, or there's a maybe some sort of backwards reference to something that's a favorite of mine, through something Sybil says. Um, there, most several of my most favorite books of all time are in the book, and then with the writing back and forth to authors, I think this has gotten out at this point, but Ann Patchett and I have exchanged letters over the years, and that's probably my experience corresponding with Anne has been a part of what gave me the wherewithal to write a story where public figures respond to letters, because I have had this experience and she's not the only one. And so but she's the one, she and I have corresponded kind of ongoing, but infrequently, like not all, like maybe once or twice a year, but for a decade. And
Wow. Wow.
yeah, so it's a cool relationship, but it's not an intimate relationship. It's just like we have a relationship across letters, which is really neat. And so um the letters there's here's a weird thing. You can't write in the voice of someone who's still living. You can only write in the voice of someone who's passed away. So there's only two authors that write back, or she references that authors respond, but you don't see it unless they've already passed away. So there's only two in the book that are actually like I wrote in the voice of an author, and there's two authors in that category. And both of those authors and the works that are referenced in my book are, I would say, dramatically influential texts for
Yeah.
me, a
Yeah.
letter and a writer.
With the exception of Joan Didion, I have not read anything of hers. It was so great to read your novel. And oh, I've read that. Oh, I've read that. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Yes, I like that. And even Rebecca, which
Uh-huh.
many people have not read. And so I love that component of the story of the novel.
Oh, thanks.
Would you talk about the importance of adoption in the
Mm,
novel?
yeah, I would love to. That's funny. I don't get asked that very often, when people talk about the book, but I knew a woman who is a parent of a dear friend who had been adopted and raised by her adoptive family. And this isn't spoiling anything. Sybil has curiosity about her. Sybil is adopted. And she has a brother that was also adopted by the same parents. And so there is a through line in the story of, her having been adopted. Now she's an older woman. She's a grandmother. But there's still this thing, this little marble that rolls around in her head, and she doesn't want to admit that she cares or that she wonders, but she wonders and she cares. And um, all the different aspects of the book that are Sybil's griefs or Sybil's sadnesses or other characters' griefs and sadnesses. I mean, this is a book about grief. I think this is a book about grief. And that is probably not a great pitch or a selling point. Like, do you want to read a book about grief? But I think it's like, it's not a soul crusher. I mean,
No,
it's,
no.
I think it's funny too, but it's primarily that's what this book is about. It's about how you live a life and deal with the things that happen that are hard over the long haul. I always say it's a book about the long grief. And so I think there's the thread through of her life of I was adopted and I don't know why, and I don't know where I came from, and I don't know who gave me, I don't know anything about it. And it is Sybil is a barrier. Like she just buries stuff. She just buries it, buries it, buries it. And a lot of this book is about kind of this season of her life, this kind of like last long stretch of her life where it's like, are you gonna unbury it or are you gonna leave it
Yeah,
buried?
yeah.
So that was kind of one of the threads of that.
I thought your answer was going to be uh, she talks about how her birth mother left a letter,
Hmm.
and that started her correspondence.
Hmm.
And I thought that was kind of interesting, and it takes on a life of its own for Sybil, and because becomes something more than that. I mean, she really needs to be able to write, and does successfully. But I thought that's where you were going
Well,
with
you
the
know what's
adoption.
funny? That it is so, there have been moments where I look back and I thought, oh God, and I remember writing the book and there was the through line of adoption. And then I remember kind of like, it's when I write, I am a very wild first drafter. It's like throwing it all, like throwing this big wet thing of clay onto the wheel, and then you're just like making a mess. I mean, my first drafts are so bad. I mean, so bad. And I'm actually coming to the end of a first draft right now, and I'm just like, oh, nobody can ever see this. Um, but but the picture that I always see of myself when I'm writing a novel, it's you throw this big wet thing on the thing and it's spinning and it's messy and it's crazy and it's yuck. It's just a big pile of yuck. And then the wheels spinning, and over time you're kind of building up the sides and you're building up the sides and you're pushing down the center and pushing and the thing is spinning and spinning and spinning, and you're building it and building it and raising it. You're raising this thing. And that's what the process is for me as a writer. And so, as I'm building it, it's like, okay, blah, like adoption, grief, older, elderly, life, whatever. And then as I'm like molding the sides up, things start to emerge. Like, oh, okay, there was a letter in her past. Okay. You start to see it. I mean, it kind of comes, there is a magic to it. I mean, there is.
Claire Keegan would be very proud of you right now. I think you have the makings of a good teacher if you decide to go that way. That's a
I do.
really good way to describe it.
Thank you.
Don't give up on that rough draft. Don't give
I
up on that.
won't. No, I won't. And I think some people are like make an outline and it's very nice, but that's not my way.
No, that's a really interesting way to talk about it. Um, okay, I want to ask you a complicated question, so bear with me a little
Yeah.
bit. It's been hard for me to write this, but you mentioned grief, which I hadn't. I see it, I understand it, but I went in a little bit of a different direction. So you've talked about that the correspondent is a portrait of a woman's life, but in my humble opinion, I think this book addresses actions taken in one's life, the consequences of those actions, and how one deals with the fallout of those consequences. And I'm not just talking about Sybil either. Many of the ancillary characters have to face those consequences.
Mm.
So, with those consequences, the characters must forgive others and sometimes even forgive themselves.
Mhm.
I think you achieve this beautifully in your novel. That's why I cried at the end. Um, was that your intent,
Mm.
or were you consciously thinking about this, or was that just part of telling the story? And as you were using the analogy of the clay, as you're forming the clay piece, is that because it tied in with multiple characters, not just Sybil.
Mm. Yeah, that's you're right. I mean, that is what the book is about. And I think the really sorry truth is that that's all of our lives. I think every person, I think all of us have to like every person. Nobody gets out unscathed. Every person has to get through this life and make mistakes and hurt people and do things they wish they could do differently and move on and deal with the fallout. I mean, I just think that is my whole experience of being a human being is that. And my experience of every human being I've ever loved is that experience of um trying to live well, trying to love, trying to be generous of spirit and a peacemaker and trying to be um you know the people that we know are needed but we don't always do it. I mean,
Mhm.
are trying, I think. I mean, most of us, I think, are trying.
That's what makes us human,
Right.
right?
And
We're flawed.
yes, it's our human way. We just can't help but mess up. We just can't help ourselves. And so I think to me, like so much of like I think if I took anyone's life that I met and wrote the novel of their life, this would be the same story. Like a whole life and what you did well and what you did wrong and how you lived through it and tried to make something of it. And
Yeah.
so I think like every book I've ever written is probably about that. And probably about it's to me that's always the two things every book I've ever written is about. What we're talking about and what is home, the feeling of home. Where do I belong? Where am I from? Where am I home? What is my home? And that those two things are in every piece of work I've ever written, every essay, every short story, every novel, every anything I've ever written. It's those two questions on repeat, answered in a different way.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about what you try to do in your life. I try very hard to have no regrets. So I don't look back and say, oh, if I could just stop time and go back and redo it. Um, and that's where you were talking about grief, but that's where I ached. If Sybil could go away. Oh, sorry, I've run out of
No,
time.
that's okay.
It was a great moment to end on,
It
Mary.
really
Yes,
was.
yes.
That
Thank you.
was, I think it culminized the whole conversation into Mary, great questions. It was a great conversation. And so, and I love that you guys were talking and gushing, and people were in the audience gushing about it too. Claire Keegan, are you kidding me? Great person to learn from. Thank you very much.
Truly the best.
Yeah.
Truly the
I
best.
mean, holy cow, that had to have been incredible. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, because we talked about it in the green room, but I wanted the audience to know because we do have your book is without a doubt a Warwick's favorite. You end up on our bestseller list, if not every week, every year popping off and up and down on that bestseller list. And we do have some of our booksellers here with us today, so in the audience. So,
Oh, thank you so much.
and that's a testament to their love of Mary, obviously, too,
Oh
but
no,
also, but
it's
also,
a testament to the novel, and I
correct.
and I want to say our customers are really loyal, and they'll come in and they'll say to us, "Okay, what are you recommending?" And I'll recommend this book, and another customer will come by and go, "Oh my God, I love this book. You've got to read this book. It's in our book club." One of our booksellers had it in their book club, and they choose it for their selection. It's an easy sell, Virginia. It's a
Yeah,
very easy
I'm
sell.
I'm just moving to La Jolla. Okay,
there
I'm
you
just
go. Just come on.
there.
Just come on down. Yeah, I mean, you've got my sister. She married today. She texts me. She goes, I finished the book and I'm bawling right now. So it's
Amazing.
all good stuff. So we do have some questions that came in, so I want to get to as many as we can. And Virginia, you're going to have to tell me if some of these are spoilers or not. So if they are, we'll wait for them for later. But I'm just going to go in
Okay.
order of how they came in, and then we can move on from there. Um, so Aaron asked a question earlier about the ending. Was that the ending that you intended, or did you have an alternate ending that you were?
That the only thing I knew when I started the book was the ending. And so the ending never changed. The ending was the ending, and there's the final letter is a letter that is unique in its own way. And actually my editor suggested maybe we cut that letter at the end because it was like she thought, should we end on a different point? And I really fought for it to stay, and I'm proud. The ending was how I wanted it to be from day one.
I love it. Okay. All right. So this one's from Carolyn. So Harry Landry and Sybil's relationship was very unique and mutually nurturing. What was the purpose of including a character like young Harry to help define Sybil's life?
That's a great question. Sybil, for all of her characteristics, is a very maternal person. She has a big maternal heart. And she has there's a lot there with her who she is as a mother and her own life as a mother. But I loved how Harry brought out this side of Sybil that was gentle and nurturing and kind and mothering. And I wanted to be able to show that was part of who she was.
I love it. Yep. And well done. This question's from Barbara. This is about Ann Patchett. I think I might know the answer to this though. Is your personal correspondence with Ann Patchett in actual letters, or do you correspond by email?
Barbara, hey, letters. And I have them all over they're everywhere. They're all over. Let's see. Like, here's one. Here's one.
I think if you
Yeah.
watch and you follow Anne, Anne's another one of our lovely favorite authors at the store. She doesn't really do so. She doesn't do social media at all on her personal, and I
She doesn't
don't
have
think
a
she does
cell
email.
phone. She doesn't have a cell phone. She
Yeah,
doesn't, I mean, she's very brilliantly not in the world of technology.
brilliantly. Love it.
She figured it out.
I love it. This is coming from Anonymous. Hello, Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Ooh, what are we going to ask here? The unsent pages seem to me almost like Sybil's journal. I assume they were intended for someone specific. Were they? Maybe her ex-husband?
This is a spoiler.
Okay, well, we're going to wait for that one then.
That I don't know if they might not have finished the book, but you know who the pages go to at the end. You
Okay.
find who the pages go to.
Okay, so we're going to wait for that one at the end then. Madeline. Hi, Madeline, one of our lovely booksellers. She wants to know who some of your favorite other authors are.
Okay, yeah. Whenever I'm writing a novel, I'm writing the novel for Maggie O'Farrell and Ann Patchett. I'm like, will Maggie O'Farrell and Ann Patchett like this book? Or would they do this? Or would they believe me? That's kind of who I'm writing to. Those are two of my favorites, and I feel like they're both doing something similar in the world with this really beautiful, accessible literary fiction that's page turning and modern. I just think they are really doing something amazing. And then I would say there's a lot of sort of writers that are the Irish writers would be my favorites.
Me
Deirdre
too.
Madden, yeah. So I would recommend anything by Deirdre Madden. I don't even know if she's published in the US. I would recommend the old stuff by William Trevor, the short stories of William Trevor. I would recommend John McGahern. I'm looking up at my shelf right now, my Ireland shelf. Anna Burns did Milkman, which was just
Mhm.
absolutely cool. I love Anne Enright, The Green Road. That's a hard book, but
Hard
that's
book.
you should read if you have the stomach for it. Um, yeah, I so a lot of the Irish writers. I should post up my Irish favorites or something on Instagram.
Well,
That'd be
on Instagram, but also Darcy in the chat was saying maybe you can put a list on of the books you were talking about earlier that they talk about in the book too. Put it on your website.
Yeah, that's a really good idea,
Put a
actually.
page
I'll
on
do
your
that.
website. People go to.
Perfect.
From Anonymous again. I don't know if we have more than one Anonymous. We have an Anonymous. So you talked about your favorite authors. What about, is there a favorite book that you've read this year so far?
Yes. I have a couple of favorites from this year. The Boy from the Sea by Garrett Carr. That's one of my best favorites of the
Oh,
year.
okay.
That's
Interesting.
on the north coast of Ireland in Donegal. It's great. I'm not going to get into the details because I know
Yeah,
we're
it's it's one of those books that's always ended up on my list. It just hasn't like bubbled up.
so good. And
Okay, I'll bubble it.
it's just the perfect book, I think.
Okay.
I loved The Ministry of Time, but I know everybody loved The Ministry of Time. I was just pulling out the books I read over the summer. I don't read a ton. I'm a little bit of a slow reader, but I re love to read all the time. I read the Long Island, the sequel. I'm looking at my books, the
Hmm.
sequel to Brooklyn, which I thought was
Hmm.
really phenomenal. And oh, I got to read the new Lily King, Heart the Lover, because I'm on a panel with her in September because
Yay! I
so
had an early copy of that I gave to our booksellers on here, Madeline, and she read it, and I know Madeline loved it too.
yeah, it was really good. So and then I read the Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf this summer, which was
Ooh,
phenomenal. So
okay.
look
Very cool.
forward.
Okay. We're gonna end with this question, and
Okay.
then we'll go to spoilers. So we're gonna
Okay.
end with Darcy is asking, "What's next?"
Darcy, she knows. She's like, she just said it. She's just said she's almost done her first draft. Yeah, I am writing something right now and it's going great. It's also modern. It is about the making of a movie. And
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
But I think
I
it's gonna be good if anybody wants to buy it, hopefully, but hopefully it's good. We'll see.
Hey,
Fingers crossed.
it's going to be great. It's going to be. I just have this, someone's telling me it's going to be great. All right, so we're going to get into some spoilers now. For any of you who have not finished the book or have not read the book, you might want to log off now. It's been great having you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you for coming. Bye if you're logging off right now.
Please buy a
Uh,
copy. Send my kids to college.
yeah, exactly. And then just know that this is being recorded. So if you want to come back later after you've finished the book, you can come back for some of these spoilers. It'll be on our YouTube channel after. So, Mary, I'm going to give you the chance to ask your first spoiler question if you have one, because I think we talked about it earlier and you said you might have one.
Yes, thank you, Julie. Um, Virginia, does Sybil forgive herself?
Okay, I think she does,
Yeah,
but
I do too.
this is like one of those things where there's so much in the letters that's not said. Like you are only reading what she says to someone in a letter. So whatever's going on in that brain, I don't know, but I do the part so now we're spoiling. To me, it was the moment where she says, "For years my grief has been an air horn in my head, and now I find that it's finally silent." And to me, that was her being able to say,
Yep, yep, yep. And Mr. Lubeck, I think he helps her with that. I
you
really
know,
do.
Mr. Lubeck is the true hero of this novel.
He
So
never gives up on her,
he's
ever.
good. He's a good man is hard to find, and
A
he's a
good man is hard to find. And
true
he was put through his paces, let me tell you.
poor
I mean,
guy.
you kill his cat and and he still comes back, you know. I'm telling you.
Oh, I got
Oh,
some
what?
about that.
Oh boy, I bet. There are some cat people that probably did not forgive you for that one.
No, I got some hate mail.
You got to
Anyway,
be really careful with killing cats and dogs. Just saying.
I
Those are
know.
two things that it's like,
She didn't kill the cat. The
oh,
cat was under the car and she
It was
was
an accident.
unaware of it.
It was definitely an accident.
That's
but
accident.
yeah. It's so funny. It's like, no, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. Like, you can do things to kids, but you can't do things to pets. It's just
So
like, I
true.
just like, all
Oh,
right.
hey, the question for
Yes.
Anonymous that was a spoiler.
Yeah.
Those all those pages, if you're here, you know that she was always writing those pages to her son that died. And so those were, and so yeah, in a way, it was like her way of journal, probably like a journal thing, but there was also something behind it that drove her, which was like a guilt or like a sadness of sort of not being able to let him go and you know
Uh,
yeah.
can I go back? I know you gave me my one question, but I have another one.
We got the time.
Okay. Um, Virginia, you mentioned something about Rosalie going full circle, and if we talk,
Yeah.
tell us what that
Yeah.
was about.
So the last letter that Sybil writes is to Rosalie, and she says to Rosalie, "You're the last person who writes.
Yes,
She says, you're the only person left who writes to me."
yes,
And
yes,
he had been writing Rosalie since she was a girl. And
right.
so there was just that, Rosalie is like the long presence in her life, other than her brother. But in some ways, like Rosalie knows her more than, but she's closer to Rosalie like a sister. And so I just thought she's sort of the mainstay of Sybil's life, like from childhood and, being children together and then marrying brothers. And so they were, and she knew Sybil's mother who died, all those ways that Rosalie was just always kind of like the mainstay of her life. And so the last time Sybil writes a letter, it's to Rosalie.
I hope Rosalie finds some peace in her life.
Rosalie, man, she got a
Do
tough
you think
go.
you'll ever go back to any of these characters?
Okay, listen, Julie. There there is a possibility
How
one of
you?
these characters is playing some role in my next book.
Really?
Yes, and I'm not trying to be Elizabeth Strout and make all of them live in the same village forever and ever and ever, but I do there's so many good stories in the side stories of the correspondent that like I feel could be blown open, like Bassam and his children, refugees from Syria, and like that story, although I don't know that I would write that story, but there's such a good story there. Or you know, Sybil's daughter, Fiona. Like, what's going on with Fiona? Or Harry Landy. Like, we leave Harry Landy and he's like launching into his writing a novel career. So, I don't know. I think there's some stuff there, but there is one way that a character from The Correspondent is a character in my next book.
Interesting. So people will have to look for that Easter egg.
So yes, and I do think that's kind of fun as a reader when you follow a writer to like find Easter eggs of things that
I do too.
connect. So I kind of wanted to do that.
Now I always butcher this word, and you did it perfectly in when you first were talking about epistolary. Is that how we're doing it
You did
here?
it.
Are you going to write in that format again, do you think?
Never, 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 never. I
I
wouldn't
told
want to do
Mary
it.
that when we were talking. I said it has to be way harder to do that than to just write a straightforward novel.
Well, I'm not sure if it was harder. In some ways, it felt challenging. In some ways, it felt easier. But I will say it would feel contrived to try
Mm,
to do it again.
right.
Like that book can be that book because of that one character. I
Right.
don't know that
Right.
I would believe it if it was anyone else.
Yeah, I agree.
It was so perfect. Yeah, you don't want to mess with it. And I'm so glad you held firm on that last letter
Yeah, yeah.
because that was the heartbreaker one. That was where you really knew that Sybil had been struggling and struggling, and it that was just so good.
Yep. All right, we are out of time. So for you that have loved Mary's interview and would like to know what Mary's reading, on the Warwick's webpage, you can find our staff picks. So
Oh,
you
cool.
can go on our page and look down at our staff picks, and we have all of our books listed. And I have a feeling you will see the correspondent on many of those staff rec pages. As we said, we are true fans of the book. But Virginia, for people who want to know a little bit more, do you want to direct them to your webpage, to your social media? Where do you like people to go to check out what's
Well,
going
I've just been informed that my website is woefully out of date, so
on?
I
Got it.
wouldn't don't start there. Although people like to write me letters now, and there is an address on my website in the contact section where you can send an actual letter to my bookstore, and they'll receive it for me.
Awesome.
So that's there. So my website is virginiaevansauthor.com.
Okay.
And then I have an Instagram, and it's virginia.l as in Louisiana dot Evans, or it's at virginia.l.evans. And Warwick's is always really good about tagging me and stuff, so you can probably find it that way. And then what was the other thing? I think that's all I have.
Okay.
That's where you,
Well,
yeah.
and I think it was a little Instagram post that got this whole thing kind of going. So,
I think Warwick's has I mean Warwick's like that's where I would want to go on tour because you guys are the best. So
well,
thank
thank
you.
you. Well, we think you're pretty awesome too. So, thank you. Thank you for spending time with us today. Really appreciate
It
it.
was my pleasure. Truly
Yeah,
my pleasure, as we say with Chick-fil-A. So it was truly my pleasure.
truly a pleasure. And Mary, great interview. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you
Truly
for making it so easy,
did a
Virginia.
great job. You did a
I
great
really, really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to meet you in person. And I cannot wait to read your next book.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone. Have a good night.